Now, if we rewind just a couple years back, it was such a great time for the anime community. Back in 2020, we had such amazing titles that are going strong even today. Titles such as Demon Slayer, which had dropped Mugen Train, which is, I believe, the best Japanese anime that's ever come out so far, and the most profitable. We had Jujutsu Kaisen, a big hit in the game. Obviously, we had Misfit Demon King Academy, Tower of God, Violet Evergarden, Inspector, Akudama Drive. We just had so many great titles that came out during this year. But there's one that I don't think anybody will forever get this one, because not only the hype it had produced before the drop, but because of how loyal its fan base was to the manga. The God of High School. This was supposed to be another anime that was supposed to be competing with the big leagues. I'm talking about up there with the My Heroes, the Demon Slayers, Jujutsu Kaisen, Black Clover, in which it's not. Today's video is God of High School, the best anime of all time, sort of. The reason I put sort of because it's the best anime to see an example of what not to do when adapting a manga, or in this case, a manga, into an actual anime. The first things first, the God of High School suffered from an incredibly fast-paced narrative. The show's plot jumped from one point to another so quickly that it left many viewers scratching their heads. The characterization of key figures, especially the main trio, lacked depth due to the breakneck pace. We barely had time to understand the motivations and personalities before they were whisked off into battle and events. Our main cast was consist of Jinmori, Handaiwi, and Yumira. Now, the introduction of numerous characters in each episode also further compounded the problem. It's a case of quality over quantity, and the God of High School unfortunately went for quantity. Instead of building a solid foundation for a handful of characters, we were bombarded with a large roster, leaving us disconnected and struggling to remember who's who. I'm talking about I would end up seeing 10 different characters per episode getting introduced. Maybe if the character was like really important, we may get a flashback. Maybe if they're like an old sensei or somebody that came in from the past, we don't know nothing about them. They just come in pulling out crazy, ridiculous powers. Another thing, the anime's tendency to dish out outrageous power-ups early on was another glaring issue. It didn't allow for proper character growth and development. This, combined with the fast pacing, resulted in battles that felt empty and devoid of stakes. There was no time for the audience to appreciate the journey each character underwent to achieve their newfound strength. Which also helped correlate into our next point. Their power system was not explained very well. Karaoke or Charioke, I'm not sure how to explain it, was just insane. Like, we understand it's the ability to actually borrow power from super entities and stuff like that, but that wasn't even explained right. Like, all we see is that Jinmori is supposedly Sun Wukong, and then we have Imperial Park, which is supposed to be like that Nine Tails. I'm like, it was just happening so fast. Don't get me wrong. Now, Imperial Park against Jinmori was such a great fight, but like, power system was going crazy. It's like Dragon Ball, where you usually get random power-ups. At this point, it's like just the animation, the actual fight scenes was keeping it alive. And the same thing happened with, sadly, God of High School. Now, one of the biggest blunders was trying to cram too much content from the manga into just 12 episodes. This resulted in a rush and disjointed storyline that left viewers bewildered. By attempting to adapt a massive amount of source material, the anime lost its coherence and the narrative suffered greatly. Bro, God of High School manga goes up to at least 570 plus, I believe. It literally recently ended in 2022 of October when it came out in 2011. That's how much content there was of it, and they try to fit so much of it into just 12 episodes for the first season. They're bugging. Now, the intricate power system in the God of High School was not explained thoroughly enough for the newcomers to understand, but another thing is what they could have been able to have done differently. Extending the season from 12 to 24 episodes would have allowed for a more gradual and digestible flow of content. This would have enabled the audience to immerse themselves in the world of the God of High School without feeling rushed or overwhelmed. A slower pace would have allowed for proper character development and a more thoroughly explained of the power system and a greater connection to the overall storyline. This anime I would not recommend to newcomers because they would not be able to understand. They would end up thinking this is how all anime moves. It's too fast paced. I'm telling you, too many things were wrong with God of High School. And it's sad to say because I know how loyal the fan base was and for the fandom. That amount of hype it had, I didn't have a clue what was going on before God of High School came out. I didn't know nothing about it. And I watched it. I was like, is this what God of High School is? I had to go back and read the manga to actually get a better understanding of how good it actually was. So what I recommend to you, if you're a God of High School fan, read the manga because it's so much better and so much better paced that you'll just fall in love with it. hopefully if God of High School ever gets season 2, it can, you know, come and do better and reclaim itself and redeem itself. But the God of High School is the best anime of all time. Sort of. Yeah, I have a blessed one.